But actually, there's something we could talk about. Casualization of video games.
Depends on what you mean.
What I mean is games that the best way I can describe it is. So the only reason I bring this up is because Jim Sterling or Stephanie Sterling, however the hell she calls herself nowadays, he or she used to be a very credible video game journalist, now very political channel, made a video recently talking about how games like Elden Ring need an easy mode to branch out to all audiences. If anyone knows, Elden Ring is made by From Software, and basically it's part of the Soulsborne series, which its whole fucking basically the whole point of the Soulsborne games is literally the epitome of get good scrub.
The thing is, though, I have a massive issue with the Soulsborne games because there's this is an issue I have with games like this in general. Is there's no it's an open world game, right?
Yes.
With one play style.
Dodging, basically.
It's roll, hit, hit. In sequence, in perpetuity. And everything else you do is to make... Yes, I would agree, Adar. I'm saying this from experience. I beat the first Souls game and didn't care to touch any of the rest, and I don't honestly remember most of the Souls game even.
Honestly, but, I tried Code Vein, which is basically Dark Souls meets anime.
I've tried that too. I've also tried Lords of the Fallen. They're all the same game. It's dodge hit. There's no funky weird builds you can make. There's no there's no real casting. There's no real archery. There's no nuance to make the game any better. It's you basically beat the boss in the ways we've decided you're allowed to beat this boss.
Yeah, even
and go fuck yourself.
Code Vein was the same way. There was no you had ranged stuff, but the ranged itself did so little damage to the point where it really did nothing. And it was basically you just devolved down to dodge, fire a few shots, dodge, fire a few shots. But yeah.
And I'm gonna say this, there's nothing to get good. You learn to click a button at the proper time and that's it. There's no strategy, there's no plan of attack. There is hit, don't get hit. Mm-hmm. Motherfucking Pokemon, Gen 1 Pokemon had more nuance to its system than that.
Hey, have you guys played Temtem?
Never even heard of it.
But yeah, so I bring it up because one of the things I watched in that video was she brought up how basically game companies, and I quote, should be making games easier as it allows a bigger audience to take hold. Basically saying games should drop their creative vision in order to get more audience in on it.
I think games can very easily implement creative modes in difficult games. For example, Subnautica. I think there is more than enough room in any game to make an intended version. Hell, when I go to play a Halo campaign or something similar and show me the difficulties, one of the difficulties will almost always read, "This is how blank was meant to be played." And then you can also choose to make it easy. And here's what my reasoning is. I'm a college student that works 2 fucking jobs and has other shit to do outside of video games. The rare occasion I have full time to sit down and play one, I don't want to spend the entire time frustratedly ramming my head into a wall because I don't have the time to learn skill progression.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can have your hard gameplay, adding different modes so people that don't have the time or occasionally the ability, because not everybody's able to have develop the proper reflexes. There are disabilities. Like introducing a mode that allows one to enjoy the game at a rate they're able to handle.
Yeah.
Like, think of every dad who gets home from the office at the end of every day, and they have maybe an hour in between pleasing the wife and putting the kids to bed to play video games. Do you think that man has time to learn how to dodge a gothic dragon's attacks perfectly?
Hell no.
Honestly, I'm in the middle of it. Well, I do agree games should have a bit of an easier mode. At the same time, it also depends upon the game's clientele. Like, I will say this, Dark Souls games, they cater specifically to that masochistic, get good crowd. People who take the time to learn it. That is their clientele. In a sense, if you think about it, and this is because people were saying games like that need an easy mode.
I would
When
agree,
it becomes
because my
clear to
roommate,
those,
I have a roommate.
well, I'm just saying,
Here.
when games like those, they deliberately cater to a very specific group of people.
I would disagree partially, because they're also they also partake in a very niche group of games that indulge in gothic aesthetics. Also, the games do have a lot of lore and fun to explore, and I can tell you for a fact, my roommate has the reflexes of a fucking slug. And he enjoys the Souls games because he liked the lore and the gothic aesthetic. And again, like I said, it's not... Because this is a literal... You punch and you have different numerical values. Easy mode. Cut all the damage they do in half, double your health. Done.
I don't know. See, I'm still on the fence with that, because, even then, we also have to look at the fan base, too. The fan base also considers, beating the game on the hardest mode, where basically one hit and you're dead, no matter what gear you have, no matter who you're with, to the point to be considered triumphant. And they're like players who have gained basically world renown to the point where even the devs have.
You can have that, and then you can have
we all remember the famous Elden Ring player, Let Me Solo Her, who became so famous at fighting one of the most difficult bosses that he literally sits there and waits for people to summon him to help them out.
Yeah. And you know what? Those people can still do it. But it literally, and I've worked in some programming before. It's buttons. Like, I think 5 buttons max to program in an easy mode where you just reduce damage. And I'm not saying it has to be the standard. It's an optional mode. The same thing with like Subnautica's creative mode. It's an optional mode for people who don't want to deal with the difficulty of the game and they want to enjoy the difficulty for other reasons, or they don't have the time to learn to master an extremely difficult game and they want to experience the story.
Yeah. See, I don't know. Like I said,
the thing is the issue is they're not mutually exclusive. You can have both.
Yeah, I agree. You should have both.
Yeah, Adar says he was also rewarded a fucking sword for soloing her 2,000 times. Well, again, but I'm still on the side of that games should not... Basically, the way that I see it, you are not... You don't deserve the right to win a game. You don't just get to, because I paid for the game and I don't have time, that means I should deserve a win. I'm on the boat of, I'm not going to...
Depends on the game.
I understand, but you're trying to... You say depends upon the game, but yet I'm saying Dark Souls, while yes, gothic and lore-y, they still cater to a... That's not what their big name clientele is. When you think of Dark Souls, the thirst thought isn't, gothic lore. It's fucking hard as shit bosses that take you time to learn.
My first thought is a dragon with unnecessary limbs, but
yeah, just because you paid for the game and because you don't have the time doesn't mean you are earned an easy mode. You have to play it on harder modes? No, you don't have to. But it's I'm the boat of it. Just because you bought it doesn't mean you are earned the right of victory. It's the same reason why people were saying Cuphead should have a easy mode that allows you to skip all the boss fights. That's
not an easy mode. That's a stupid mode. But what I'm saying is games like League of Legends and competitive games where your individual skill as a player is what's being measured. Yes. But games meant to be played and enjoyed in your own time, any game with a story, you should be able to enjoy the story for sake of story. And yeah, it does cheapen some people's experiences, but at the same time, I'm a firm believer that you should not be so caught up in a game, any game, that you'll get butthurt when people less skilled than you want to enjoy it too. It's a game. It's for people to relax, to have fun, to experience art. And like I said, there are games that were competitive, skill matters. And unfortunately, I don't think Dark Souls is one of them. And the thing is, though, because Dark Souls can still have its highest difficult mode, the players aren't losing the prestige in doing it at the highest level. The players that do the highest shit aren't doing anything else. And in fact, I can think of quite a few communities that would love an easy mode because then they get to lord it over all the people that play easy. Like, I would like to agree with you, but at the same time, I work 60 hours a week.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying where I agree with you, but at the same time, the way that I see it, it's not... The devs are not required to make it easy for you.
They aren't, but at the same time, it's a button. It's literally, it's like five.
Well,
it's,
yeah,
you
like I
push
said,
five
it's
keys on a
literally
keyboard.
it's literally just a button, but at the same time, they are catering to a very specific clientele. Unfortunately, if that's the clientele they want to cater to, there's nothing we can really do about it.
But they could expand their clientele by putting in the easy mode.
Well, then again, this also brings into other questions like dumbing down parts of the game to make it easier for other people. Look at the Fallout series, for example. They removed basically the RPG elements to simplify it so people who don't like weapon and armor degradation from both Elder Scrolls and Fallout was removed because, it's too hard for us to keep track of our items' quality and gear.
I actually do agree with that slightly because Fallout 4 and Skyrim are my first two actual RPGs. And I can tell
Fallout 4 is not an RPG. It is a looter shooter. A very poor looter shooter, but it's a looter shooter.
I would not have been able to handle a more difficult one off the bat.
See, well, that's the thing. People sit there and say that, keeping track of our weapons and armored gear is so hard. It's like Skyrim and Oblivion. You just carry a couple repair hammers on you. Bing, 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 done. Your shit's upgraded. And if it gets too weak, guess what? You just carry something. You just use something else. Fallout. Get the jury-rigging perk where you can use a fucking single-shot shotgun to repair a fucking anti-material rifle. It's literally like it's not that hard, and I felt like people overblew it. And now, because of that, we lost a part of that little roleplay element. No matter what, your gear is always at perfect condition, and it kind of takes away a bit from that immersion.
The thing is, it does, and you can argue that it should have been left in for the survival mode.
It's not even about survival mode, it's just... It's like losing like Fallout 4 again. Instead of having skills where you have to dedicate points to a certain skill, like I want to use energy weapon. If I want to get better, more accurate, more damaging, I gotta put more points into that. Nope, this time it's just perks. You just put a perk in there. But and at the same time I could invest. But the point is, in the old games where it was an RPG element, you had to basically balance yourself or choose something to master. And I could either be a jack of all trades, but not good in all of them, or I could master a few skills and be okay in others. I could be, hey, I'm doing more damage with small arms, small arm ballistic weaponry, but at the cost of me being better with energy weapons. There was that trade-off. You couldn't be god of everything. It was one or the other. And I feel like removing that was, again, that simplification, that casualization, that removing things to make it easier for our clientele, but at the cost of what made the series iconic. What made it an RPG.
And
That's
honestly,
why I will always sit there and say Fallout 4 is not an RPG. It is a shooter game with a story mode.
Honestly, that's an RPG. That's what it is. It's role playing. You play the role, and yeah, it takes out some role playing aspects. I will agree with you. And Dar's probably gonna call me some kind of basic bitch for this, but I honestly find the craft degradation mechanics annoying as shit.
I guess we'll have to agree to disagree on that. I
it feels like
never had a problem with it. It
feels like my day-to-day life. Like I do chores. I have to manage. Oh, we're out of milk. We need this. We need that. We need that. Dogs have to fight. And when I have to think about that doing a video game,
your gun is not going to be part of an RPG is literally, even the old Fallout still had weapon quality. Oh, you shoot a gun enough times, it's going to get dirty and jam up. Nowadays, I could literally fucking unload 1,000,000 rounds for a minigun, and it fires like it came fresh out of a factory. In a sense, that breaks lore, and also it's like, okay, I'm in a and the game fucking tells you we're in a post-nuclear apocalypse where ammo is crude and dirty and scarce, and guns are so rare and getting so damaged that they have to start relying on cheap pipe weaponry. But yet, for some reason, the guns never degrade and never get damaged. It's always, which makes having these lore connotations about how shit needs to be maintained and prepared, and all of a sudden it's like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and
hell, I had
the thing
to
is, though,
if they wanted to bring that shit back in.
If they wanted to be in line with the lore, guns would only be legendary drops.
Yeah.
This is a numerical fact.
You would maybe see handmade weaponry at most, but they would maybe take like a few shots before they're just, because again, it's fucking pieces of 2x4 with copper piping strapped on with a piece of wire. It's not going to survive more than maybe 3 shots.
The thing is that you would hardly even see those. Like, ammo would become super scarce. Hey, look at the 2020, 2021, where all those riots were going on throughout the country and people were stocking up on ammo. We don't have that big of a surplus that civilians have access to out here. Like, people in 200 years from now, would you be back to bows, crossbows, and blowguns?
Yeah.
And then you would maybe encounter a boss that has a gun specifically, and he took out of its case specifically to kill you, because maintaining the ammo is expensive. If they were actually concerned with the lore, they would do that. And the thing is, though, for all our complaining, Bethesda made the correct choice. Fallout 4 is one of the Fallout 4, while partially critically panned, although I don't really listen to critics anymore, has one of the best sellings and has one of the best player bases. Like,
it's also sold well because of what it is. It's a Fallout game. There's huge fan base of nostalgia behind that game. If it was its own IP, if it was Starfield, fans would probably have been a little less happy about it being said, hey, you're getting a good RPG, and it's that. I would have been a little like, okay, where is the RPG elements? I would have been mad if this was a new IP. But because the only reason it became so big is because it's a fucking Fallout game. That's it. Remember the hype train meme? I was there when it was fucking released. I bought it day one, motherfucker. There was hype behind it. It did not sell because it's an amazing game. It sold because it's a Fallout game. That's it.
Sold, and it continues to sell.
And after a few months it's out, people were like, hey, the hype is, okay, our hype is gone, our nostalgia is juiced, this game is fucking shit.
I would strongly disagree. I've played New Vegas in 3. I strongly disagree. I actually think Fallout 4 did a step up in a lot of areas. And one of the biggest areas, and this is a monetary thing, is accessibility. Because when you open up, the market opens up. And unfortunately, the market's what determines what gets made. Like, it's a sad reality. And
I think they did a bad choice
because you are making good points.
Away what made the Fallouts Fallout. That's the thing.
And
they took away what made it iconic in the first place. Like
thing
I
is,
said,
though-
it'd be fine if it was not tied to the main series, or maybe just a new IP. It's the fact that it is tied to the originals. We have something to compare it to and be like, hey, look how good it was originally. And then look at this.
If you're gonna go off originally, then why is it not a 2D top-down map manager like The Sims? Keep in mind what Fallout 1 and 2 were.
Again, most people know of 3 and New Vegas, which are considered to be the better than Fallout 4 by the majority of fan base. Again, I could easily go on YouTube and find people saying, yeah, Fallout New Vegas and 3 are above Fallout 4. Most people will consider that. And what's the main contribution to why New Vegas and 3 are usually considered to be better than Fallout 4? Because of that loss of what made it original. Again, it's another thing when you have this new IP and you do this stuff. That's fine. But it's that loss of... But because we have something we can compare it to, they simplified it to hit a wider demographic, which, yes, makes them more money in the end. But at the same time, you lose those fans who looked at this and said, hey, why are you giving us shit compared to what we have originally? I have a zombie mod for Fallout 4. I could easily be recording Dust-esque playthroughs on it. I don't, because I actually genuinely dislike Fallout 4, because it's just not good.
I would disagree, but
On top of that, the voice acting was fucking shit.
Here's the major issue at hand, though.
Having a voice main character was a fucking stupid decision.
That's one of the biggest things I think it did right. What I think it did wrong. No, what I think it did wrong with the voice main character. They should have had one. Yes, what they did wrong was the delivery. Like that was like, and this is a major issue, and this goes into the actual industry and how games are made. The 2 voice actors had to record so many stupid amounts of lines that the actors were making bank. And since most actors are generally paid per hour or per line, Bethesda didn't want to do a whole lot of reshoots. Fuck the English language. So they went with the first delivery. And if they had taken more time and did a bit more with the work and given them good voice intros, that would have been amazing. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I fucking hate, and this is just me, and
Actually,
this is me being a dyslexic. I hate silent protagonists. I really do.
I think silent protagonism can be good. Like in the original games, it was fine because you had the full list of what they would say, and they gave your character time to figure out for you effectively to voice it for yourself. You could envision what kind of voice your character had, and it does it for you. The new ones, guess what? I can't imagine a character with another voice because I have a pre-made voice offer. On top of that, it makes modding games a lot harder. Because now, if you want the player character to say something in a mod, they either have to spend a lot more time chopping up the in-game voice to make sentences, they have to find someone who sounds like the voice actor, or tell you enable subtitles and basically sit there while the camera sits on you silently while your character's subtitles go through for a few seconds.
Yeah, and it does suck.
With a silent protagonist, we don't fucking have that problem. It's just, boom, here's your dialogue. On top of that, they did the Mass Effect dialogue option, which I would be fine with the voice ones if the dialogue tree wasn't so shit. Why only 4 when it's always a combination of yes, maybe, kinda, and no?
It's yes, maybe, question, and or mean comment, and no.
Yeah. It's never... with the original Fallouts, there were times where you'd have 10 different things you could fucking say. And yeah, it's just... That's something that I do agree was I hope people agree was a very bad thing. And, like, it could be, like, sarcastic. Okay, well, what am I saying?
And
of the old Fallout system, I knew exactly what my character was gonna say.
Yeah, and that's a big issue. And here's the thing, though. When all you say is it's shit, it doesn't tell them why it's shit, how to unshit it, and what part of the shit is worth keeping. Per my example, voice lines can be good if they fix the system and made the deliveries better. That's what they need to hear. And this is a bigger issue with the gaming in whole. And why I have an issue with most gamers that just say it's shit. You're there because they harm. I firmly believe they harm the industry more than they help it, because game companies don't know what the fuck's going on. This is becoming a bigger issue with more and more companies as people say this mechanic shit, so the company just drops it instead of trying to fix it and saying it's shit. Here's how you make it better. They just see it's shit, so they drop it.
Yeah,
and that's
which
less
is why I'm on the list. Which is why when I talk about these things, I give reasons as to why I dislike them.
And
again,
going back to my
personal opinions, and I know I'm not the only one who shares these opinions. Like I said, I dislike the fact that the armor and weapon degradation was taken out because, in my view, it ruins the immersion because we're supposed to believe these guns are basically barely being held together. Even the modern military ones are barely being held together because, it's been 200 years. That shit's not going to be working as well, and from what we can tell, not many people, other than very specific people, are keeping... very specific groups are actually maintaining the guns. It would make sense as to why they would degrade. So to me, that was a degradation. To some people, that is a benefit. It's that benefit thing where, unfortunately, companies, they try to look at it and say, who's going to make us more money?
Yeah, and they believe it or not, they do look at criticism. The unfortunate thing is people have no idea how to criticize. You hear universally it's shit. I don't like all these things, and instead of trying to say fix them, they say get rid of them. And
yeah, that's why I like when I follow YouTubers who also talk about this, and actually was on a podcast earlier this week, Monday night, in fact, where we were talking about the same topic, which is why I brought it up anyways, in which we actually sat there and discussed, hey, how, that's something we did discuss was, how different people do this and how to actually get a response. We actually basically sat there and chose a game that we all played, which was Skyrim, and we showed people, hey, this is how you make proper criticism, this is how you make people think you're stupid. One of the things I brought up was the companions in Skyrim. You just show up, okay? And if you played Skyrim, you know exactly what I'm talking about with the companions. You just show up, do one fucking mission, and you're already good to be part of basically the group of leaders who run the place. Somehow, you skip a bunch of ranks where these other people who, according to their in-game dialogue, have been a part of them for some of them possibly days, weeks, some of them possibly years, and somehow you're skipping ahead of them quickly with just one mission.
That means what you did was so fucking badass, which makes sense. You're considering you're the soul of a dragon and you're the reincarnation of a god.
Well, you could join them before you're even Dragonborn. You could go through the whole questline without your character, technically in character, not knowing they are Dragonborn or being able to shout. You're just a normal pleb, basically. And
you're a normal pleb that's secretly the reincarnation of a god.
You know what I mean. That still doesn't excuse it. But we were talking about how it's we literally see one of the other lower ranks fighting a giant. And yet somehow, after that, because that was clearly a client-paid job, it was on a farm, and it's where you initially learn about them, so we have to assume they were paid to kill the client. They were paid to kill the giant, and yet somehow she isn't in the circle, the leaders. No, you do one mission, which is either go here, kill the animal that got in someone's house, which is usually a skeever or a wolf, or go here and clear out 5 bandits. Apparently, killing 5 bandits or a wolf makes you leadership. These are the people who are the trainers, the people you're supposed to look up to for advice. You do one mission, you could literally go do it in your underwear, and they will make you a leader.
Adar, to add to what you just said there, voice lines are typically 25 cents per word. When you have 20,000 lines with multiple words, that's easily upwards of $15,000 a voice actor.
On top of
that's the biggest issue with Fall, is that I guarantee you they didn't go well, this is shit, and we want to rework the things, and you can tell this is from the sheer size of the game, because they clearly needed to have the voice actors. This is what a lot of cartoons will do. They'll have all the voice actors recording in the same studio together, so they can hear each other's deliveries and play off each other's energy.
Yeah.
And you can tell in Skyrim when they had 2 clearly separately recorded audio lines, and their energies are all over the place. The voice lines, I think, was a step in the correct direction.
Yeah, I will agree. the voice actor can be good. It's just, again, I feel like none of them, they both had areas where they were good and they are bad. Like, if I had to choose which one I preferred the best, it would definitely have to be the female Soul Survivor from Fallout 4, because at least when she does it, it seems like she's actually giving more energy to her performance, I guess.
Sometimes too much energy, honestly. Like,
Yeah,
she'll get like a mutual response from somebody, and she tries to pep it up, and I can see her wasted energy just going out the drain.
Yeah, but at least she was better than the male who's always just talking in that monotone. But we're on the topic of voice actors, though. It does bring up the chance, because when you have two different genders for a male character, for a playable character, now all the NPCs also have to record a line of dialogue for the male and female version. They can't just sit there and say, "Oh, hey, it's you." If they have to address your gender, the person who's recording that now has to record a separate one where they do it for both genders. And
especially like with Fallout, where you have like
this.
dialogue between 3 or more people, where they have to substitute he and her pronouns for them.
Yeah, and I will say though, one thing I hate in most Bethesda games, is the repeated use of a single voice actor. If anyone who's played Fallout 4 knows, you will be able to recognize a very specific voice. That is the voice of Brandon Keener. Who is he? He is an American voice actor who is most famous for his role as Garrus Vakarian from Mass Effect. Yeah, that guy.
Fucking everything.
Yeah, there was it actually, in my opinion, they used his voice so much to the point where it actually takes me out of the game whenever I hear it's like, "Oh, hey, here's a new guy. Oh, you sound exactly like..." There was one point where I ran into a character who had his voice, and literally 10 steps later, like same cells, I could see both NPCs on my screen, and they both shared the exact same voice. It wasn't that art encounter, it was a completely different one, and I'm sitting there, I'm genuinely asking myself, how did they fuck that up?
Because it's cheaper to hire one guy, and like, as you say, it gets you with a game as big as Fallout, you're easily racking up millions in the voice acting charges alone.
Yeah.